Welcome to Perspectives, a podcast where the clergy women of the First United Methodist Church of San Diego share their musings on scripture, theology, and what it has to do with us.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Perspectives. I'm Reverend Brittany, and I'm here with Reverend Hannah. Welcome back, Reverend Hannah.
Glad to be back.
This week, we continue in our series, Bridging Faith, and we're going to be talking about suspicion quieted by relationship. Our scripture reading comes from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 4, verses 7 through 12. Next, I saw under the sun something else that was pointless. There were people who were utterly alone, with no companions, not even a child or a sibling. Yet they work hard without end, never satisfied with their wealth. So, for whom am I working so hard and depriving myself any enjoyment? This is pointless and a terrible obsession. Two are better than one because they have good return for their hard work. If either should fall, one can pick up the other. But how miserable are those who fall and don't have a companion to help them up. Also, if two lie down together, they can stay warm. But how can anyone stay warm alone? Also, one can be overpowered, but two, together, can put up resistance. A 3-ply cord doesn't easily snap. Reverend Hannah.
Yes.
Solomon had a lot to say
Yes.
in this book of Ecclesiastes.
Yes.
What can I tell you what I first think off the first before we get into suspicion quieted by relationship? You know, this doesn't feel good for people who don't have children or have never been married.
Yes.
What do you want me to do?
Well, I have to say that Solomon, or whoever is writing this one, is not referring to those people who are single. Rather, he's referring to those who intentionally stay alone,
Isolate themselves.
and not building any relationship because they're workaholic and they want to gain as much as they can and save as much as they can and use as much as they can for themselves.
When I was reading in the commentary, they were talking about how this scripture kind of reminds them of Scrooge from...
Yes, I read that one too.
Yeah, you did. And it was like, you know how Scrooge just hoards all of his money and he's just so grumpy about everything and he's just like on his own in the world. That's kind of the type of person that Solomon's talking about. So not single people per se, unmarried. I wanted to throw that out there.
Those who are intentionally choosing this lifestyle over building relationship, or even if you're single, you go out to build relationship with others and you offer to go with us to dress shopping.
Yeah.
So
friendship is important. You know, it's not always romantically. I just think that sometimes, as you know, these scriptures can be taken out of context and can be used to oppress other people and to, tell them that they've done something wrong because they're in this particular spot, not talking about the people that are choosing this isolation.
Yes. And you're right on the context. So if you look at the context of the entire book, it's a reflection on the meaning of life and wisdom and all those life-work balance and all that. And the theme of Ecclesiastes is not vanity. No. It's wisdom that looks at life in a different light. So,
and it's considered wisdom literature in the Bible, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in chapter 4, he reflects on meaning of work in life and a lot about solitude, solidarity in the context of justice.
Right.
So it's an interesting chapter. And yeah,
I mean, it's essentially saying you can work yourself to the ends of the earth and not have any relationship that amounts to anything, then you really haven't lived any life, right?
Yes.
And it, again, doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, but if you don't have a friend that you can call on, a family member, people in your community that you lean on and that they lean on you, you're really not living the fullness, you're not getting the bounty that life has for you.
Yes.
Because you're very isolated
in
yourself. Yeah.
And in the verses that you read, verses 7 and 8, it talks about a lonely individual. We're obsessed with productivity and wealth, and we're consumed by work and never be satisfied.
Yeah.
And can they feel joy
Well,
in their lives, in their work life, endless work life?
I don't think so.
So no joy, no relationship, no fulfillment, and just endless striving.
Well, I think without relationship, it's hard to have joy, right? Like it's hard to experience.
Joy is communal in nature.
Exactly. So, joy in isolated incidences. If you've ever like really been excited or filled up with something, like you want to share it with people. You like want to tell them about that good thing,
Yeah. Traveling alone is okay once in a while, but it's much more fun when you're traveling together with people you love and deeply in relationship with. And we can often think about individualism as Western modern concept.
Yes, we can.
Ding, 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 ding here. Solomon is talking about rugged individualism that was also apparent in his ancient time. And all those people with, I can do it all myself. I don't want to be a burden on others, and I don't want to be taken care of type of mentality. And that's so exhausting and lonely.
Yeah.
And driving you nuts.
Like the martyrs of isolation, like I have to do this on my own. I have to do. I can't ask anybody for help. And it's like actually you could.
Yes.
And you people need people. We can't do this thing called life alone. It's hard enough to do it with other people, let alone trying to do it by yourself.
Yes, and there's an unique understanding of work in the biblical literature that we in this modern world want to think about work as the most important priority in our life.
Absolutely.
But it was the last thing in the story of the creation. So God created everything else before creating human.
Yeah.
Therefore, the concept of work comes in late in the creation story. So humans are called to take care of the earth and build relationship with other human beings, build relationship with the surroundings and all the resources that sustain our life. So the creation story itself is telling us that your work is a part of a bigger picture.
Exactly.
And it's part of your relationship, not something that you need to go after. And I think the wisdom of Ecclesiastes is reminding us that that's the beauty of relationship.
Yeah, because I think that in relationship you have other people to hold you accountable, to tell you like you need to slow down, you need to take care of yourself. Have you gone to the doctor? Have you done XYZ? Otherwise, I think that at least in our culture we wear productivity as like a badge of honor. Like that's what we hang our hat on rather than like enjoying life and experiencing life and being in right relationship with other people. It's how much we can get done. I have to like sometimes, for instance, I'm going on vacation and you said, well, I can preach for you. And because I am who I am, I'm like, well, I guess I could still do it, and like really trying to figure it out.
Come on, you're the one who told me to rest on the day of my vacation.
It's easier said than done, right? I can tell you to do it, but it's really hard for me to do. But taking that I had to really sit with myself and say, Hannah's offered to preach this day. You don't have to be a martyr. You know what I mean? You don't have to. It's okay. It's been offered.
I'm not doing it for you. We are swapping.
Yeah, we're swapping, right? But
what's the issue?
It was just like, oh, well, I guess I could do it. But again, that idea of being enculturated with like, get it done no matter the cost, push yourself until it's done. It's not what God has for us. It's not what God would want for us, right? And so you offering and me having to like, actually, yes, I am going to take you up on that, was me thinking about not only this scripture, but how can my weariness be, quieted by rest? So
yeah, and by relationship
and
too.
by relationship. So that's the other thing, that it takes other people to hold you accountable and to remind you of what's important. You know, one of my best friends died in 2021 suddenly, and we had just spoken to her the day before, and it really reminded me of all of the times that like I was so busy with work that I didn't answer the phone, or I didn't go to the birthday event because like, oh, I've got church on Sunday, and you know, all of that came first. And it's not that my church responsibilities and my professional responsibilities weren't important, but I felt as though they were the most important. And her death, Bree, God rest her soul, really woke me up to realizing like I need to prioritize being with the people that I love and sharing time and space with them. And that my whole life is not just what I do in my professional life.
Yes. And that's where the author is heading towards in verses 9 through 11, that the two are better than one and all that stuff. And two who work together, support each other. I'm so glad that we are working in a church that there is more than one pastor to sit down with those grieving families in times of busy season. And we lift each other up. People lift each other up when there's more than one person in the community. And there's the warmth and protection and shared reward. And it's not just the wealth or material stuff. The reward is the solidarity and relationship that quiets our suspicions and that warms our hearts and that brightens our day. And true security, the author of this book says, doesn't come from hoarding or accomplishing. It comes from the bonds that hold us together.
Yeah. I remember... Do you know what I'm about to say?
Yes. Say it.
I remember coming to this church and meeting you, and I was like, oh gosh, I don't know if we're going to get along or not.
She's
like,
Korean.
I don't know. She's Korean, and they have a tendency not to like black people, right? Historically, right? That's what I thought. I came in, and I was a little like, I don't know about you. Suspicious. My hermeneutic of suspicion was up.
Yes.
Right?
You were a little guarded.
I was a little guarded.
At least for the first 2 weeks. Your laughter is embarrassing. I love black people, but your laughter is embarrassing.
That's so funny.
But you named it.
Yeah.
To me in our personal conversation. You know, the Koreans are a little racist.
Yeah, I did.
But I wasn't offended by that. We ended up talking about things, and we talked about the racism and the racial complexity in the U.S. and how the Black Korean confrontation or conflict was steered by something else and all that. So we learned history, we learned about racial complexity, and we built relationship, and all of those added up.
Yeah.
And your suspicion
was quieted
by
relationship.
Good job.
Really and truly. I mean, we are very different, very different. As you can see, I'm loud and she's very demure. But in our growing and in our relationship, I realized that we do have a lot in common. Even though we have very many things that are different, there's still so many commonalities we have deep down. And the experiences that we've had are different, but they still interconnect. You know, I think that, like, again, if I think of us as God's tapestry, we're woven together, you know what I mean? And so my experiences overlap with your experience, and when we actually get to see it, it's like bigger than what we thought it was, than the little speck on the ground.
Yes, and I wish someone had documented the interactions and the changes over those years, and those like cold moments when we were frozen in some points, but wrestling with those and working things out and understanding even more, and sometimes pointing fingers at each other.
Yes.
And
But that's about relationship,
yes.
you know? And when I think that nothing's going to be perfect in anyone's relationship. And we're always going to have moments of growth. But if you value the people that you are around, you should be able to say, like, this is bothering me, or I'm feeling like this. Can you help me understand what you're feeling? I think that there's always a way to be able to have those conversations if two people are willing to be not just in relationship with one another, but be working toward right relationship.
Yes.
You know?
And you remember that occasion when you used our relationship to quiet someone else's suspicion? Last summer, when you were on house hunting, apartment hunting.
Oh, yes.
Tell us about it.
Yeah. You know, people have a lot of judgments. And so I know that Hannah's quiet and demure and I'm loud and not.
Oh.
I mean, you know. And so when I was looking for houses, I was like, Hannah, come with me.
I need your Korean body.
I need your, like, Korean body to shield me so that they know that, like, they, you know, their suspicion can be quieted because we're together.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
And it worked.
It worked.
And you need me for instances when I have
because
to be.
I'm the closed mouth.
And you don't get fed, but I'm always going to say
fighter.
what needs to be said every time. Yeah,
So, yeah. And our relationship within the larger context is deeply blessed and enriched by conversations and building relationship. And that quiets down all the suspicions and misunderstandings or any competitive spirit or anything that's causing us harms. And I think relationship is the one that the author of this wisdom literature is recommending us to embrace.
Yeah. I think that life is easier, like I said, when we have other people that are going alongside it with us, you know, when there's somebody else that you can talk to about the thing that you may be feeling or experiencing. And that, again, the point of life is that we do it together, you know? It's hard. Like I said, it really is hard enough. It really is hard enough.
And if we don't, I try to process things in my mind first before sharing it with anyone else. But when I share it out loud, there's wisdom that comes from our relationship and people who see things in a different light and gives me a different insight. And that's what this author is saying in verse 12. One can be overpowered, but two together can put up resistance. A 3-ply cord doesn't easily snap.
Right.
So.
Right. And I think that that's important because it's not just, this isn't just talking about being overpowered, I don't think, as taken over, just overpowered in one aspect, but like being overpowered in the idea of justice work too, right? It's better and more fulfilling and an easier blow to take in justice work when you're formed together as opposed to one person trying to do it.
It enhances our resilience and protection and the shared strength, and it's safer.
Yeah. And that's a part of the reason that I think that, at least in the Methodist Church, it's all about process, right? It's because things shouldn't happen in silos where one person alone is kind of telling you what to do, but that there's a conversation that's happening, right? What do you call it? The Holy Convention?
Holy conferencing?
Yeah, holy conferencing. Thank you. I was going to say convention. But the holy conferencing that happens, right?
Yes.
I think is also important, that it shows that you're making these decisions with people, each other, and you're holding that together as opposed to one person doing it in like a dictatorship type thing.
And also, we can have personal conviction, but each one can have their own.
Yeah.
So when we bring those diversities and differences together and conferencing together, we get to create better image, more inclusive and more embracing and more more open to everyone in God's world. And I think your theological muse, your theological crush, John Wesley, that's why he said there is no personal holiness apart from
social holiness.
Yes. So our personal faith is enriched and enhanced by our
Community.
social holiness and community. And community is not just about relationship. It's not just practical. It's holy. So
It's intentional.
Yes.
Jesus has the disciples that go with him. Like Jesus is God incarnate, right? So God doesn't go by God's self, right? So we shouldn't think that we can do it on our own and go by ourselves either.
there's a power in the community.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed having this conversation. Do you think we are good for today's episode?
I think I have said what I needed to say on
Okay.
Ecclesiastes.
All right.
Do you feel good?
Yes.
All right.
And is it okay if I pose questions now?
You got it, Reverend
All right.
Doctor.
I hope you all enjoyed listening to our conversation, and I hope you are able to have conversations with your friends and family and whoever else is around you that strengthens you and that supports you and that keeps you warm. So these are some questions that I invite you to consider. In what ways can isolation breed suspicion, distrust, and fear towards others? Can you think of a time when relationship quieted suspicion? How might faith communities foster connection across differences? Hope you enjoy your conversation and see you next time.
Bye.
This is a production of First United Methodist Church of San Diego. To learn more about our events and ministries and to access additional learning resources, visit fumcsd.org.